And good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. We're getting ever closer to the March 5th Vermont Town Meeting Day. And we've got a number of shows scheduled here on Northwest Access TV, including interviewing candidates in contested races here in the St. Albans, Swanton area. And I have the three candidates with me today who are seeking select board seats. Two of them already have them in St. Albans Town. And the challenger, David McWilliams, a former selectman. David, good to see you.
Been on twice.
Jack Brigham, the current vice chair of the St. Albans Town Selectboard, running for re-election to a 2-year term. Mm-hmm. And Bryan DesLauriers, the chairman of the St. Albans Town Selectboard, running for re-election for a 3-year term. Mm-hmm. David, I'll start with you. I guess my first question, if you win both races, not going to be a tough decision on which one are you going to do the 3-year?
Well, the reason
you're not going to clone yourself and be two of you or something.
The town would be in bad shape if I had to.
Four-man board.
No, the reason I decided to run is because of the fact that, I've been involved in town government for many, many years. I try to get other people to run for office. I try to get David Bay to run again, and no one wants to run. So I decided to challenge both the gentlemen for the 2-year and the 3-year term. If I get whatever one I get, if I'm elected by the people, yeah, I'll do my best to fight for the people, the taxpayers of the town of St. Albans.
When you mentioned, and I'm sure you did talk to other people trying to get them to run, what's the line? Too busy? What do you usually hear from
It's really
folks?
Time-consuming, because of the fact that, you got meetings, you may have your second and fourth Monday meetings,
yeah,
but you also have other meetings that might have to go to. Besides that, you need to do research on the subject you're going to be talking about, yeah, so that that way no one else influences you. By having the facts in front of you, yeah, you can make an honest decision for the taxpayers.
Yeah. Jack, easy decision to run again or not easy?
Well, I thought about it for a minute, It don't get any easier. Like Dave said, there's the regular meetings, but there's a lot of stuff in between during the day, and so it can, if you're busy at other stuff, it can be a kind of tough to get away. But
you get some calls, I assume, from townspeople. Do you get many? You get some.
I don't get as many calls as I get people on the street, yeah, going, "Hey, what about this?" or "Why can't you fix this?" And I take all that stuff in and bring it to the board. But my main reason for running again was trying to make sure that our police water sewer deal got off the ground good, and because I helped put it together.
Yeah, so you certainly played a role in that.
And I wanted to make sure that it got off the ground, and I'll probably limit myself after this 2-year term to go back, and I'll be too old probably, but I'll be like 75. That's probably too old to be in government by then.
Don't say that to me. Don't say that. Brian, I know on an earlier show, it sounds like you really did give a lot of thought to whether to run for re-election. Sounds like that was not a quick decision.
It was not, and it's because it's similar to what these two gentlemen are talking about. It's a big commitment. If you're going to do it, you want to do it right. Right, and so I've always prided myself on if I'm going to do something, I want to put that effort in to do it the right way, do all the reading. There is a packet of information that comes out before each meeting. It takes a while to go through, and if it's something that you're not familiar with, you got to get yourself familiar. And this year it was maybe was a little bit tougher on me to think about because I was also thinking about the fact that I was the chair this year, and there is more work with that, right? There is more phone calls. There are more emails. I did communicate a lot with Jack, a lot with Sean, a lot with the other members as well, in addition to, the meetings. But when it came right down to it, similar to Jack, this police thing was really important to me. I was there with Jack for all of those meetings. We did all the meetings with Dominic and Mr. Farrar as well. And it's really important to me that this works and it goes through, and that it's done with people who support that agreement, that and the affiliation fee down. So it was a tough decision in terms, because I do a lot of other stuff too. I help run a business. I coach several sports teams. I still have 2 young kids at home, that not super young, but teenagers. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing all of that as well. And quite frankly, my wife and my 2 boys talked me into running again. So
Really?
I had their okay, and that's all I needed.
Interesting.
Yeah, my wife said it's good having you out of the house, do it again, you know, so.
David, let's go. Again, these folks have touched on it. Big, certainly very big news in the town was what's, I think, accurately termed the historic agreement between the city and town on the police coverage and wastewater issue, which had been subject of litigation for years. You're, of course, a former longtime city employee. I know you've had some issues with the city, but what about that agreement? Are you comfortable with that? Was that a good move?
Well, when they put the police advisory committee together, I've talked to some of the people that were on it before our new town manager, and a lot of their information went to Kerry Johnson and it never went anywhere.
Kerry being the former town manager before
town
Sean
manager.
Atkins.
This, I think, will work as far as this police department taking over St. Albans Town, but I think there should be a committee that has a lot more to hear from the taxpayers, because I don't think the advisory committee works as good, because the fact that the information, like in the past, went to the town manager before, and a lot of good ideas and people just, said it was a waste of time.
Let me let Brian, does the joint police board, I'm under the impression that there is more.
So there's-
It has more,
Yeah,
whatever, pull with it or whatever.
This agreement has 2 different boards. So
Right.
one is the Joint Police Board, which
Yeah.
is strictly financial, essentially financial budget. A little bit in terms of, not so much in policy, but just really the budgetary. I was thinking about the fact that the Joint Police Board is the one that decided, let's fund the task force, right? The street crimes task force. There's a separate board, which is the Police Advisory Board, which the town had their own, which is kind of on hiatus right now. The city's had a very active one. There will be a joint one once the agreement takes place this summer. The idea being, if there's 6 members, 3 will be from the town, 3 will be from the city. That's the one where it's more a liaison between the public and the police chief. They run theirs, the police chief, I believe, has been at almost every one of their meetings, right? So it's a kind of a hearing board. They work more in collaboration, right? So people can come, they can bring their concerns to the members on that board, but that has nothing to do with the Joint Police Board, which is budgetary. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's, some folks will be, paying a fair amount of attention to what's going on.
I think the town taxpayers want the law enforcement. The sheriff's department, I understand throughout the last year or so, they've actually given money back to the town
Well, we
because they
just
couldn't cover.
didn't pay it.
Yeah.
I called the sheriff's department at least 4 different times
Really?
because of speeders on the road,
Yeah.
and most of them are farmers that go down that road with their manure spreaders and they just keep on going.
You got to respond to the sheriff's
They
department.
never showed up.
Never showed up. No, there have been staffing issues.
They have a staffing issue, so basically, I told the officer to park his vehicle right in the yard where I'm living. And, because of the shortage of officers, no one ever came down. This wastewater agreement, I think will be good as long as we can make sure we keep the city communicating with us and making sure that we're not getting any bull from them.
Yeah.
Because I worked for the city for 38 years.
He knows something about
I've
wastewater.
worked with Dominic Cloud. I've worked with the mayor. I worked with previous mayors and managers, and, I just hope everybody's going to be honest.
Yeah. I'm sure we've got some new viewers out there, obviously new folks pull into St. Albans Town. Why don't you give us a little background, or a little more background on yourself, David?
Well, I worked for the city of St. Albans for 38 years. I was a union rep. I also was in the corporation papers of this Northwest Public Access, along with Larry Dugan, Stan Beauregard, Rick Tatro. This building was badly needed. We stayed at BFA for 15 years. We came here, and we've been very happy of being here. I was president for 9 years. Prior to that, I was vice president for 10 years.
Do any local public access, to ask the boss man this, is there any nicer facility for local public access station in the state? Pretty nice facility.
I've been to the one in Colchester, this
Yeah.
one is top of the,
Pretty
we got
nice.
over $3.2 million in this building. But
Yeah,
also,
so, nice headquarters.
we also got this building paid off.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jack, not exactly a stranger to town, but give us a little background. It's sugaring season underway, huh?
Well, I'm just a young feller here. My family came up here after the Revolution and leased some land from Ira Allen. Eventually, I guess they bought it or stole it. I don't know how they ended up with it, but where I live now is what we call the Holyoke Farm. So they came up, settled Holyoke, Mass, and then there was
I
so
was
many.
through there on the train the other day, just about a week ago, went through Holyoke.
Yeah, so they came up here too, and somewhere in the 1800s or whatever, Brigham married a Holyoke, and we all got mixed up. So, yeah, so I've been a dairy farmer for 43 years, I think I was, and then I sold my herd of milking cows in 2020. Just kind of hobby farming now. I got some beef cows, ducks, chickens, got a couple donkeys. Anyway.
Sounds like you keep busy.
Yeah, and we do haying, and then we also sugaring's our main source of income. So actually, some days I think I'm working harder than I did. But yeah, that was always a problem I had. A big dairy herd, and a select board meeting would come up, and I'd had something going on here, and I got to get down there. But now it's not so hard for me to attend meetings. But yeah, that's kind of my history.
Brian, you gave us a little background. Give us a little more background if you want.
Yeah, growing up in St. Albans, I've lived here pretty much my whole life. Went to BFA. My grandparents, were farmers as well down on the Kellogg Road. Married 70-something years before Grandpa passed. Grandma's still here with us and one of our most important residents. Be 99 in April, which is awesome. After high school, I went to the Air Force Academy for a very short time, hurt my shoulder. Went to UVM, and then I taught middle school for 10 years in Fairfield, St. Albans Town. I've been a financial advisor for about 14 years as well. And when I was younger, I worked for the Recreation Department in the city for 12 years. And then I served on the Recreation Commission for about 8 years as well, helping design the pool. Had a chance to vote for that, but it got built, so it's similar to what we were looking at. I coach as well. I coach a few different sports. I coach hockey right now, and this is where I want to live. This is where I want my kids to be able to live if they want to. I mean, it would break my heart if they went somewhere else, but we want St. Albans to be kind of that center of Franklin County. A place where they can get good jobs. And if they're not here, then we'll have the infrastructure to get places, but also to have all that recreation. But love this area. Been here my whole life. I don't think I'll go anywhere else. Obviously, don't love paying taxes either, but I know most of them's to the state and to the school.
Of course, your uncle Peter DesLauriers knows a little something about public service. Still in the books as St. Albans' longest serving.
Yeah, I think he
now
did
former mayor.
20 years total, and still talk to him here and there. Not as much as I'd love to, but yeah, Uncle Pete's put in his time as well.
David, just a few articles on the ballot. Of course, the instructions to voters for electing officers. Then the town budget. A little over $7.1 million, and then the other article, Select Board looking for authorization to use up to $600,000 in a general fund balance surplus to reduce the next budget. You support both those
I got to tell you a little
articles?
story about me and Jack before I get to the question. When I ran way back, when Mike Yule was the zoning minister, Jack was running at the same time. He dropped out and endorsed me. So when he ran, I don't know how many years ago, I stepped forward and endorsed him because, if you feel your candidate is good, you support him, and which I did. So that's a story between me and Jack, so. But as far as the budget's already set. You know, the voters have a right to either vote for it or against
Right.
it. The select board also was able to take $600,000 to help reduce the tax rate.
Yeah.
But if you look at the tax rate over the last 10 years, and Stan
Dukas?
Dukas says the budget's ran every year, it's always gone up. Well, you're gonna have a certain amount of budget going up because you got health insurance and you got wages. So, you know, I'm glad that the select board put that on the ballot in reference to supporting that. And I do support, you know, any way to reduce taxes.
What's the biggest issue or challenges, biggest issues facing St. Albans Town? Any one particular issue jumping out
Well,
at
I
you?
think there's a lot. You know, our new town hall, that was put down there. A lot of people were for it, a lot of people were against it.
What about yourself? Was that a good move by the town to do a new town hall or not?
Well, once they found out that the water was not suitable for drinking, they should have tested it again on the property again to find out if it would pass. And if they did that and it didn't pass, the select board at that time should have come back to the voters and said, look, the downtown business district you want in the bay, but we can't put the town hall there because the water's not suitable. So right now, there's an average, 2,000 gallons a week that has to be taken out of there and brought up to the city sewer plant because the water's not suitable down there for drinking.
So you think?
So I think the town hall, in my opinion, they should have been up there where the town garage is, the new town garage, because there's water and there's sewer up there, because it's hooked onto city water and city sewer.
Of course, town voters, I think, very strongly did vote for, I think, keeping, was it the town hall in particular that was on the ballot?
Yep.
If they wanted that in the St. Albans
Location.
Bay area.
Yeah, because that was the wish of the voters.
Yeah,
But if they tested the water again and it didn't pass, the select board at that time should have gone back to the voters and said, look, these are the facts. There's an engineer, we have the facts to prove that the water's not suitable for drinking.
Jack, reaction to what David's
Well,
saying?
I don't disagree with Dave, I wouldn't have put it there, but, couple corrections. The town garage has its own mound system. It's not hooked to sewer. It's got water.
Water's been fine, water's fine up there, I
Water,
guess?
city water.
City water.
Oh, it's got city water.
As far as the events goes, the well wasn't drilled until after the building was started. And it went down 800 feet.
Something like
And
that.
where we hit the old Champlain Sea, which was salt water. At that point, it was a little beyond repair. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Brian, any in retrospect?
No, I mean, it's, you know, the decision really was to have it, the people made the decision, right, to have it down in the historical bay area of the town. I mean, the populace lives up near exit 19. I mean, that would have been even probably more, it would have been nice to have it up there. I think that certainly could have worked. But the reality is, it was picked to be down by the bay. The building was started. The water thing has been solved. It's all solved. There's a tank there. I've talked with Dave Allerton and others. It takes them like 20 minutes or half an hour every couple of weeks to fill that up to a tank. I don't even think we pay anything. We bring it up and just dump it into the system. I don't think we even.
Yeah, we have a small
or we
fee.
pay them a small fee that's relatively de minimis. All things considered, I think the new town hall is great. It's in a good location. I mean, Jack and I think end up driving the furthest. If it was at exit 19, that would be much easier. There was possibility of putting it on some land there. That didn't happen, and so to me, I guess it's just a non-issue at this point.
Yeah. David, the old town, former town hall's been in the news a bit. What would you like to see happen with former town hall? I
Well,
assume something?
First of all, the town select board screwed up because of the fact they should have had an attorney involved in it from the beginning. So that way, everybody knew what was how this RFP is gonna be presented. And there should have been a for sale sign on the front of the building, and therefore everybody has a right to bid. The way it was done, That's why now, because the select board knows they made a mistake, they put an RFP out again. I still haven't seen a for sale sign on the front.
An RFP has not been reissued.
It's not been reissued.
Nope, nope, not yet.
So it's a dead issue,
No,
no?
we just ain't got to it.
So, but, you know, Mitch Montaigne made an offer of $175,000 with the town manager. Communication, I don't know, went wrong, but now the select board has a right to take and refuse any and all offers because it wasn't done right. So sooner or later, they're gonna either put it back out for sale, where Mitch Montaigne or anybody else wants to put a bid on it.
And that is the plan, to put it out for sale?
Well, yeah, essentially. I mean, when we look back at it, disposal of assets policy said we would have a period offering for RFPs or any other kind of bids. That was until September 30th of this past year. Obviously, we had a great deal of excitement that we'd get lots of offers, even creative ideas, right? So from the beginning, it wasn't highest dollar amount, but best value for the community. Okay, and we didn't know what that was going to be. We'd held several public information meetings for the public to come and give ideas. We heard lots of great things, you know, cafes and art places and everything. But we did need, we also kind of want it to not be, we didn't want the town to be supporting it fully. Right, whatever it was going to be, we were hoping that it would be private, would be great. If it was going to be public-private, some kind of enterprise in that manner, I think that would be great. But the bottom line is September 30th came and went, and we had zero actual offers. Nothing was in. It kind of fell off at that point, I'll be honest with you. We had other issues going through, namely the budget. Budget starts in October. We had the joint police board started in October. Okay, and the reality is we didn't get any bids, we didn't open any new windows, and then there was some interest in leasing it. During that time, then another bid came in. We had 0 meetings and 0 votes on what to do with it. We did have a very well-attended public meeting that happened on a Thursday morning. We had not made any decisions. We were looking at, working with St. Mary's Academy to see if that was viable, if it would work. No decisions were made. And then with consultation of our attorney, which he was answering one of the questions that I asked of, well, looking at the policy, the RFP period ended. We didn't start a new one. We're just in this gray area, almost like, I don't want to say a twilight zone, but something of that effect. And he agreed that we're kind of in uncharted territory because we're not still in a bid period. Your best way forward might be to just open a new window. We've only had one select board meeting since then, and we had other more urgent issues that needed to be attended to. So we're hoping that we can look at it again tomorrow. And David, the idea is hopefully to probably open a new RFP. Some ideas are to put a sign out and enlist an actual real estate agent. That might be part of it. Other ideas that were brought forward from an attorney is to hold a public auction. So that's something that the select board needs to figure out.
We just haven't got to it.
But you can't have a public auction because of the fact that you have your own policy and how you're supposed to get rid of equipment or buildings, right?
We can have an auction.
Yeah, so that's a possibility.
Yeah, at least the attorney believes, based on our disposal of assets policy, that an auction is legal and viable if that's the way you want it to move forward. And I think even a private attorney representing someone who put a bid in also said an auction was legal under that policy. So I'm not an attorney, so I can't argue with them. But
the only problem with something like an auction is you don't really have any control over who ends up with it. And
correct.
There is real limitations zoning-wise and septic-wise on that building.
Septic sounds like
and
a
water,
major
too.
issue there. Yeah.
It is.
So it's very limited what can happen there.
Interesting. The juvenile facility, that was a hot issue in the town a while ago when the state was looking at their good friends in St. Albans Town
Yeah.
for the juvenile facility. I guess townspeople, I guess the select board made it pretty clear very clear that town wasn't interested in and Brian, the town has not come back. It looks like you're not looking over your shoulder at the town, trying to
I don't believe
convince
so.
the state, trying to convince the town to have a nice little spot by Northwest State. It looks like that issue seems pretty dead.
Yeah, I would say that. And I would also say it wasn't necessarily just the select board that made it clear.
No,
It was the
townspeople-
Roughly probably
townspeople
50 or
made it
60 people.
very clear, so.
Yeah, the only communication I think we've heard since then, Sean has heard from them that they are not pursuing St. Albans. And then recently, I think I saw an article that the state is pursuing a location in South Burlington.
Interesting. Boy, maybe you could talk to the state. Of course, the Northwest State Correctional Facility, of course, started long, long ago as a juvenile
Yeah.
offenders facility.
Ironically,
Maybe you
yes.
could convince the state, hey, get rid of the prison and have what you wanted in the first place here, but
I
I guess that's not
reminded
gonna
them
happen.
of every expansion they had when they said every time that this is it, this is
Yeah.
it. So,
Should the town, Jack, on that issue, should the town, seems like in the past there was a liaison committee between the town and the prison. Should the town, or any of you folks, should the town be getting more information about the prison? Are you reasonably comfortable with what's going on?
It's been my experience, it's only me that, the state talks out of both sides of their mouth. Anything they say is a
Yeah.
grain of salt, because the next administration,
Yeah.
whatever went on before, out the window. And you're starting all over. I mean, they sent a whole team of people up that night. The transportation, what roads do you want fixed? We can fix this and we can fix that. All of a sudden, they're ready to work with us. It's kind of a bribe.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, no thanks.
But that was the juvenile detention center, and it
Sure.
was never supposed to be a maximum
No,
security
sure,
prison.
yeah, absolutely right.
I was on the liaison committee with Frank Montang, and we used to, every once in a while, we'd pay a site visit, because some people were complaining about the food. So me and Frank, I can't remember who the other one was, went to the prison unannounced, and we, the commissioner of the prison down there, so what are you guys doing here? I said, we're getting complaints about the food, so we come down here to see what you're feeding them. And they were feeding them very good.
Yeah.
Did you have some?
Yes.
That's pretty good, huh? I've been there a few times.
I actually spent a night there long ago,
You
not
did?
for any bad reason. I think Ron Kilburn was kind of the district court judge at the time, and he thought it might be interesting for reporters, and he might well have spent a night in there himself just to see what it's like. So I did, as I vaguely recall, logged a night at Northwest State. Brian, you comfortable? Obviously, it's a part of the town. It's not going anywhere. Do you feel you're comfortable? Would you like to get more info coming out of it, or you think it's an okay situation?
Yeah, I like the Superintendent Hale came up at one point and gave us an update on what's going on. Now, when the state was coming up, as I usually try to do a little research. So I went down, I sent a list of questions to some of the town staff, and went down and met with them and went through all of these permits and all these things that Jack recalls
Like 3
from
pages.
From memory. But one of the court cases, I think it was 2004, somewhere in there, basically says whatever happens inside the walls is none of the town's business.
Yeah.
Essentially, what's in the walls, the state can do whatever and whichever they'd like. Outside the walls, that's a little different. So not that makes it better, but again, it shows we don't have that much say over it. I'm surprised they let you in, David, with the food, but it's good to hear it was decent, though. I mean,
Yeah, well, I was on the liaison committee with Frank Montang, and one of the things that bothers me, and I talked to Mitch, is Frank Montang spent 16 years as a town selectman. And there's not a picture on that wall where you've got Bob Johnson, you got,
Steve Wexler, Steve's on the
Wexler,
wall.
and then you got Eleanor Goodrich. Frank Montang did more for this town of St. Albans, so his picture ought to be on the wall.
you
and
should nominate. There's places
Sounds like-
they've asked for nominations.
I
It's not just the
believe, I
select board.
believe from talking to some of the family, they don't have a picture they would feel comfortable being there. I guess they're working on that, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like that'd be a nice thing to
Because
do.
Frank did a lot for this town.
Yep, I agree.
Local option tax, of course, funded the town hall, the public works garage. Were you in favor? Did you think that was a good idea when that came up, David?
The local option tax has done good for the town of St.
Yeah.
Albans. Of course, it covers everything from anything you buy. I think it's on my telephone.
Yeah, it sounds like
It's on my lights,
people do
it's on
spend some
everything.
money on that.
You know, that money has done us a lot of good.
Yeah.
The new town highway garage, the new town hall.
Yeah.
You know, what a lot of people in the past want to see is take some of that money and reduce the tax rate. And I've never seen that ever happen.
I guess that begs the question.
We
could
have
you,
done
could-
that.
You can do that if you wanted to
can.
do that?
That was
You don't
kind
have-
of the main reason that, one of the main reasons way back when Walmart was coming in, while we went
Yeah.
doing it. And in years past, we voted 100 or 200,000 from that local options tax to reduce taxes.
And of course, even without directly putting it on, into the general fund, it does reduce taxes, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's $1 million.
our general fund is not paying for a new,
Town
a
hall.
beautiful
So it
public works building,
effectively,
town hall.
effectively does reduce taxes.
Yeah, and if we do move forward with a new fire station at some point, again, I don't suspect our general fund will need to be increased for that at all, and that would all be through the LOT. So even though it's not directly reducing taxes, which we may or may not do,
Yeah,
it does
Effectively.
indirectly reduce those taxes, absolutely.
Right.
that's a good point. David, the new, I guess, committee's being formed, but a new firehouse now getting some attention. Does that sound like an issue the town needs to be looking into?
They ought to look into it. They ought to also have a structural engineer to look at the building and see, you know, whether it needs to be replaced. What I've talked to Bobby Cross is that it needs to be replaced. I talked to also Mr. Sweeney. But as a select board, you should have a structural engineer look at it, determine what needs to be done, whether you buy the property on the south side of it, which is owned by the cemetery, and put a new fire department there. I think it's badly needed, but I think you need to do your homework first by having a structural engineer look at that building.
Can you run the select board a while ago? Out of curiosity, as you look at St. Albans Town, longtime town resident, what's changed? The town changing for the better? Any thoughts, if you can flash back to when you were on the select board some years ago?
Well, I think the town is going the way it should be. It's the fact that a lot of taxpayers out there right now can't afford it. Lucky there's the school, you get a school rebate, because if they didn't, you'd see a lot more houses for sale in St. Albans Town and throughout the area. Because, you know, people can't afford it. You got a husband and wife that both got Social Security and have no pensions. They're the people that are hurting out there, which I've heard from other people. But, you know, the town needs to make sure they spend their money wisely and make sure that they don't increase the budget, you know, continuously like they have for the last 10 years.
Anything in the budget, anything jumping into your mind where you think the town's spending money where it shouldn't spend money, or not as much?
Well, the town of St. Albans bought some property down at the bottom of the church road. I think they used the LOT tax money.
Is that ARPA money.
ARPA money.
Okay. To me, they want to put a roundabout down there, and I think they should make it a four-way intersection and not put a roundabout.
I don't think that's a firm plan. I think that's just one of the possibilities.
Yeah, there's 5 roads, though. You can't, I mean,
Yeah.
4-way wouldn't,
Yeah.
unless you got rid of a road.
Yeah, but you know, it can be done where you don't put a roundabout down there.
Yeah.
You know, they bought the house and the land beside it. Also, I've talked to the town manager, and he wants to put a sidewalk from the boat marina around all the way to the new town hall. Well, you're gonna have to buy some easements, because people are not gonna let you go across their property without, doing something for them. That road is, I don't know if it's a 2-rod or a 3-rod road, but I think, it has to be studied with an engineer before any decisions are made.
We
Chuck?
already did that. That's why
Flash?
we bought that. One
Yeah.
reason we bought that house, because
Yeah.
we would have had to buy, the
Yeah.
porch was in where it had to be. And we had a firm that looked at 3 sidewalks, which we agreed to do. That was one of them, so that's already, the plans are drawn. It's ready to go.
Have you bought the easements from the people coming from?
We got our road is wide enough everywhere but there.
So you're okay for a sidewalk if you want to move on that? Jack, like David, you served on the select board quite a while ago now. You're back on right now.
Yeah.
As a town, do you think the town obviously has changed, evolved, whatever? Has it changed for the better?
Well, how do I want to say this?
Don't forget
I'm a
your-
farmer, okay, and there's not many farms left.
How many are there? How many are
I
there?
think
Still a few
there's
dairy farms in the
6 or
town?
7, and 3 of them
Oh.
are pretty large.
No.
A lot of them encompassing many of the small farms that
Right.
used to be around. Open land in any municipality is a gift. It doesn't require snow plowing, fire protection, school, all that stuff. It's a great deal. One good thing about St. Albans Town, and some may say it's bad, is a lot of this land has been conserved. So, and a lot of it down around the lake is clay, so it wouldn't be very good for development. But when you get up on this side of town, like where I live, it's getting kind of crowded. And, like Dave was talking earlier, they don't understand the manure spreaders going back and forth and all that stuff. So I get people, stop on the road, taking pictures of the cows and things like that. So I think, and the people that are moving in, like, we got a lot of folks. If you look over off on Prospect Hill and Johnny Cake Hill and all over in there, it's just like 300-400 new homes over there. All them homes require services. And
Not to mention having some of the kids, a bunch of kids in
in
schools and
school,
stuff.
right? So I mean, that costs, and the budget is never going to be what it was. I mean, when I left the school board, I think our budget was 14 million.
Oh.
Now I'm hearing what is it now that for the town?
76, of course,
Right.
that's City Town and Fairfield, including
Right, but
BFA and the Tech Center.
It's boggling.
Yeah.
It's boggling. And supposedly, when I was on the school board, my son, who's now 35 or 36, I get confused, was the biggest class they ever had, and 90-odd students.
Yeah.
And why do you got to keep spending money if you keep hearing the population's of students is going down? So, a lot of the people that have moved in are nice folks. I used to sit at the polls checking off names. I knew everybody. See, coming through the door, you say, "Oh, that's so and so."
Not these days.
No.
Don't know anybody.
Brian, from your first day in the select board, you've been on a few years as a town. I think there's been a big change in the town, or obvious change, good change, bad change, or
Well, it's only been a couple of years, and
couple of years.
yeah, we started. The entire time I've been on so far is this immediate post-COVID era, right? So where prices are up everywhere, things are different. I mean, just touching on some of these things that these guys are mentioning. I mean, we're building 30 to 40 new homes every year in St. Albans Town, right? It's growing. I mean, the tax rate's not going to stay, I shouldn't say the tax rate. The budget's not going to stay the same. We're growing, right? Our population is a lot bigger than it was 20 years ago, right? It's probably going to be bigger 20 years from now as well, whether we like it or not. I mean, we can, make it easier to build. We can make it tougher. I think my focus is more on not so much attracting new residents or discouraging them, but having recreational opportunities and more than that, jobs, and for them to be here, right? Jack and I have met with Tim Smith in his FCIDC capacity.
Franklin County Industrial Development Corp. Yeah.
A couple times over the last couple months, trying to get just more information, find out more about what's going on down there. I think that's what we want to focus on, to get good paying jobs down there for folks who are already here or people who are coming in the future. But again, our population's going to grow. We are in the middle of Franklin County, and by middle I mean I'm talking about on the lake, on the interstate, right? We're in a perfect spot. We're on the lake. We're not far from Montreal. We're far enough from Burlington where we're not Burlington, and we're not Chittenden County. We're just in such a great location. Property values here are going up, but they're nothing like Burlington. It's still nothing like Burlington. If I were to take my house and plop it down in Chittenden County, it's probably worth a third more, just like that, right? So we're in such a great location, and I just want to see us grow in a direction and be reasonable about it. But we're not going to put the clamps on. We're not going to make it so that people can't continue to come here. And to what Jack's talking about, you can be up and near the city in St. Albans Town, and you are in a neighborhood with houses that are pretty close by. Not as close as the city. We still have a little more space between them. Or you can drive down to the lake, and it is very rural. It's wonderful. And you can go up the hill and be up in the town forest, and you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. And you're going to hopefully be able to get on a bike path from the complex and go all the way to the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail. You're going to be able to get on that rail trail and go all the way to Richford if you want. I mean, the recreational opportunities we have here is immense. And I include what's at Hardack because our residents also have equal access to all of the city programs.
Did the town make a mistake? The town, of course, didn't go in with the city on the community swimming pool a few years ago. Very close vote. Is that a mistake in retrospect, David?
Well, first
Sounds
of all,
like the city's doing very well with that pool.
First of all, I voted against it,
Yeah.
and the reason why is that we already had a city pool. Yes, it needed some repairs. We also have Brandon's pools, and I felt by, staying with the city pool, and if they need to do some work on it, I think the taxpayers would have taken and would have supported it. The price of that new swimming pool, the city's doing a good job. I haven't heard anything bad about it as far as financing. The city took it on its own, and I hope it works for them.
Yeah.
It's in the town of St. Albans, and they also want to take, what I've heard is that they also want to put another skating arena up there. They want a little JP. Whether that comes to fruition, don't know. But I'm glad the city went on their own because the town taxpayers voted against it.
Very narrowly, but they did.
Yeah, narrowly.
And the city the next year just went for it itself, voted for it itself.
But, I'm glad it's working out for the city because if it didn't work out, the taxpayers of the city of St. Albans would have had a major increase in their property tax.
Yeah, I hear rumblings about another skating rink. I don't think that's anywhere too close, but maybe I'm missing. Jack,
When I was on the BFA board, we talked about ad nauseum. It never went anywhere. Then it may go. I mean, I didn't vote for the pool at the time either. I got my own pool. I dug it out of somebody's backyard and stuck it in my backyard. And nobody uses it anyway.
do you think in retrospect the town should have jumped in with the city on that?
I think so.
Yeah.
But hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
But like Dave said, I'm retired. I'm living on Social Security and a few beef cows, and I'm only going to be able to pay too much. So don't worry, Dave. If I'm still in there, I'm looking out for you.
Brian, should the town think that was a mistake by the town not to join the city with the pool?
I wish. Now I was on the Recreation Commission when that happened. I mean, we went through all the plans. The old location was not viable. It would have cost $2.5 million
I think the city got its money's worth out of the old pool.
Yeah, they got 40 years out of it. The new pool, should the town have voted for it? I mean, it was missed by, 17 votes?
Pretty close, tight vote.
35 votes, so if you had 17 that changed their vote. I think the biggest issue was that it ended up being on the town ballot with no runway in order to educate so people could understand it. Whether they should have voted for it or not, I don't know. They voted no. So that's it there. Would I have voted for it? Yeah, I probably would have voted for it. Being in the town. I believe in the recreation department, having been a part of it for 20 years. And I think that's one of the things that is one of the most important things we do for our kids. That gives them lots of opportunities. Hundreds of kids are in those programs.
And for the record, town kids, I believe the town is subsidizing, is paying the same as city folks for use of it.
That is correct. That is correct. And, things like swim meets, I mean, the economic value that a league swim meet brings to St. Albans, it would be hard to calculate. But having, I think there's when they hold the swim meet up here, the league one, it's like 600 kids come up here for a weekend. 600 kids times, 1.8 parents or whatever you want to do with the math staying up here is a huge economic boon in that sense. Same with the skating rink. If we could get a skating rink up there, the amount of money that's drawn to the area from holding a tournament is ridiculous, right? Hotel stays and people going to restaurants and such. But that's nothing that we're nothing on the plate right now.
Speaking of restaurants, I think the expectation long ago when Collins Pearly was built, well, of course, there'll be a restaurant, and I think there was a Denny's rumor a few years ago that didn't happen. Do you ever hear anything about a restaurant out that way? What do I know about restaurants? Nothing. Seems like
I'll say,
a
Richard,
crazy place.
I know. I wish, and sometimes when I see people online or hear people when they say things like, they should put in a Denny's. I don't know who they is, right? Number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you would think a business would be interested in that, but the reality is those
Tough
businesses,
business.
well, they don't put them in unless there's research that shows that it's viable. If there's none there, then maybe they haven't checked it out yet, or it's not a viable location.
And that makes me think of Walmart. When Walmart went in, I think the expectation was there'll be a Home Depot or something.
No.
And I guess one of those, did Lowe's, somebody did take a look at
They
St.
looked at it,
Albans
I
at
think
one
so.
point.
Lowe's
yeah.
did, yeah.
But no, don't hear anything about stuff like
No.
that.
I haven't, no.
We're only going to get the leftovers from Chittenden County.
Yeah.
Because if you come to Chittenden County, you come to Milton. Milton's really building up now.
Well, Milton,
Milton's
as you
really come
folks
a
know,
long way.
top 10 in population in the state.
Yeah.
Top 10 town.
They put a brand new building down there on Route 7 right across from Charlie Boys.
Huh.
You know who owns that? Peerless.
Oh, is
Peerless
that
is
right?
in St. Albans
Oh,
Town.
really?
Yeah.
Plus up at the Eveready.
Interesting. Actually, speaking of the old Eveready, Beta Technology is probably seemingly about the biggest economic news around here. Is there movement on Beta? I meant to ask Peter, meant to ask the mayor, Tim Smith, the other day about that. Is there movement? Is Beta, starting to do stuff at the old Energizer plant?
They're very quiet.
I haven't heard much.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be.
But it's in the future.
It's going to be a
right?
few years.
It's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the where that business is at, I was able to go down from my financial advisor role. I was able to go and have a tour there and take a look at everything. Phenomenal. But keep in mind, their business is still in the design stages right now. So they're designing, they're getting grants, they're building what these airplanes are going to look like. They built a huge place down in South Burlington to build the airplanes. The place up here will probably be putting together the batteries.
Sounds
that
like
they
for
need.
batteries.
But-
You won't see any runway up there.
No.
Don't think so.
But the reality is they don't need mass production yet,
Yeah.
right? And that's going to be, I think next year is really the plan. I think 2025 and 2026, if I recall from
Sounds right.
when I went down.
It's certainly big news for St. Albans Town.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
will be.
Yep.
Any huge news coming out of the St. Albans Town Industrial Park these days? Of course, I still run into folks who say, gee, why can't there be some jobs in St. Albans? Everything's in Chittenden County. No, in fact, there are a bunch of jobs up here.
Permitting process.
Well,
Yeah.
not necessarily that. We've been in a lot of communication with Tim
Yep.
Smith about, they expanded that park. There's 9
south.
lots.
There's some more.
South, yeah.
It's all the
Lots,
streets
right?
in, the street lights,
Water,
water, sewer, it's all
Yeah.
there. It's
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah.
And so we've been kind of asking Tim, what's going on. Housing for the workers,
Yeah.
the workforce.
Yeah.
If you don't have housing, where are they gonna live?
Yeah.
The other thing is that he explained to us was that there's no buildings there, so every business that comes in there has a specialty, their building has to be special for them. So the cost of putting up a building and then finding a tenant and making sure the building's right is a kind of a long shot. So that's kind of what is holding them back, Plus, he emphasized, like I just said again, the workforce and where they're gonna live.
Just like this place up here. you know, we've got a spec building over here on the corner, and Patrick Malone would love to sell more property up here and put in more industry, light industry, because heavy wouldn't work up in there. But he's having a hard time. You know, right now he's building houses up here in the development above because no one seems to want to build light industrial in this area.
Back to the St. Albans Town Industrial Park for a second. I've always kind of felt bad about St. Albans Town. Ben & Jerry's, of course, a long presence in the park. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's your biggest manufacturing plant anywhere, if not anywhere.
so, yeah.
Pretty close, and it's, feel bad. Waterbury gets all the attention with a
Yeah.
place that tourists can jump into, but I'm just sorry that St. Albans Town doesn't get a little more credit for having a hugely important Ben & Jerry's manufacturing plant. Anyway, but
Well,
it's
if you
been
go
here
down
for
there,
a
they'll
while.
give you a pint of ice cream.
Well, in fact, that brings to mind a former tenant worked there for years, and believe me, they get, of course, 3 pints a day. Yeah, I got more than my share
Yeah,
for
more
a
than
few
you need,
years.
that's for
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Have about 9 minutes left, and I'll give you a brief closing statement right at the end. David, any issue we haven't touched on you want to talk about for a minute or so?
Well, I think St. Albans Town it's growing, but, you know, because of the fact that we can't actually get any senior housing here, we have 2 different spots, or 3 different spots, Hog Nest, top of Fairfax Street, and on South Main Street. But the problem that I've heard from a lot of people when I was health officer, and I saw a lot of it, is a lot of these senior housing owners do not take care of the problems that exist on their property. One particular, you know, he'd buy, you know, probably a dumpster about the wide as this table to do 2 buildings. And you got about 30 people in each building, or 30 apartments in each building, and the garbage was always overflowing. Health issues, I was always up there because of, you know, problems with animals urinating in the stairways and stuff like that. You know, I lived in the senior housing for a very short period of time until I got fed up with the senior housing guy that owned it. And basically, he wouldn't fix anything, so I turned him into the state fire marshal. And I got my notice that my lease was not renewed.
Oh,
So that's one of the reasons I'm back in St. Albans Town.
interesting. Jack, any issue you want to briefly touch on that we haven't touched on?
No, I think we pretty well covered it there today. You know, I'm just, like I say, looking to go 2 more years, and whatever happens, happens.
Brian, any
Yeah, I want-
I'll give you a couple.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the budget slash the police agreement,
Yeah.
right? And I know we touched on this earlier with an update on
Yeah.
the town, but the police budget is essentially all of the increase in the budget. The rest of the budget, when you take out the police line item, has gone up $10,000,
Wow.
which is basically nothing almost as a percentage. The fact is, when the police budget came and the select board looked at that, we worked with Sean to cut the rest of the budget as much as we possibly could. We eliminated an unfilled position, which saved the taxpayers a lot of money going forward. Sean's going to try to work without it. We looked at what we should and could do in terms of the stormwater utility. We shifted about $250,000 of general fund over to the stormwater utility because it made sense, right? It's covering the DPW workers when they're doing stormwater utility activities. They'll be paid for out of that bucket of money, which is funded not only by residents but also by tax-exempt organizations such as the school, right, who rightfully pay their share into that fund. We've done everything we could to try to get the budget to keep it as low as we possibly can. The reality is it's all from the police line item. It is a historic agreement. This is not a contract. We didn't sign a contract with the city to just cover us. We're equal partners now. Last week, I was down doing interviews for new officers as a town representative. I don't think we've ever had that before when we were with the sheriff's department or with the city before. So now we have an opportunity to, in some ways, help control our own destiny. We're paying half right now. It's up. in 10 years from now, when our population is maybe another 1,000 people, we're still going to pay half. We're still going to pay half of that. That's
So
what the
that,
agreement is.
that won't change.
That's what the agreement is.
Okay.
Yep, that would have to be, that's what the agreement is. It would have to be modified for that to change. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. We've been happy with the services of the sheriffs over the last few years, but the reality is we're getting a more enhanced police force with the street crimes unit. We're getting a police force that's going to be able to cover us 24/7. We're getting a police chief that we're going to have some say over choosing the future chief, whoever that might be, and also who has a say on what the budget is. I think that's a huge portion. And the other part that's not in this budget that we want to make sure that people remember is that there's no affiliation fee anymore. And the affiliation fee is going to save St. Albans Town residents, not all of them, but some of them, and businesses almost $250,000, $250,000.
Again, that's gone
So-
July 1st. It was halved last July 1st.
It was halved,
It's gone
that's
this
correct.
July 1st.
Yeah, it's all gone. So I think that's important as we talk about the budget, because the select board race, that's important, I guess, but the budget is the most important thing on that town meeting day ballot, and we got to pass that.
Just very quickly, sidewalks getting some attention. We are talking some sidewalk work coming up.
It's moving. We've been talking about sidewalks for a long, long time, decades. They're coming now. They're in
We got
progress.
Three
So
projects.
3 projects, some of them in the south end of town, Harbor View and Prospect Hill, connecting it to the city system, and then one from basically St. Albans Bay Park over to the new town hall.
Okay, we're down to just a few minutes. How about closing statements, David? We'll start with you. I'll give you up to a minute.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Richard,
Good to
for
see you.
having me on the show, and I know these guys for a long time. And one of the things I'd like to challenge you guys is not to stand out in front of the voting booths on town meeting day, because I'm not going to be there.
Me neither. I damn near froze to death last year.
I went to the hospital the day afterwards because I thought I had a heart attack. I went in for a CAT scan and other tests. So I think the people are going to make their decision.
Right.
If they don't know us, they call us. You know, if you guys are going door to door and I'm going door to door, I don't think we need to stand out there and make fools of ourselves and have people look down.
I'm
because
not
of the-
going door to door.
So,
But
No,
again,
I'm too busy to go door to door. I may be there with a sign, though.
well, you can put a sign there. What I'm saying,
I may be there. Yeah, I may be. I haven't decided. I do
David,
too.
you're
So,
prepared for
we'll see.
another stint if voters so decide.
I'm ready for one last shot. You know, I'm running against both these guys. They're good guys. I know them both. I don't believe in some of their politics, but that's my choice, and that's their choice about me. But I'm going to give it my best shot, and if I get elected, whether it's a 2 or 3 year term, that'll be the end for me, because I'm not going to be like Donald Trump or Biden, stay on longer than, this term, whatever I get, if I get it.
Jack, you're back in the select board. You like to hang around for a little while longer,
Yeah, a
huh?
couple more years anyway. Like you say, may the best man win. But I don't believe I'm going to stand out there too long, especially if the SAP's running. No, I'm not banging on doors. I've been around long enough. People know who I am. Either you're going to vote for me or they're not. May sound kind of nonchalant, but that's just the way I am. So.
And Brian, I know you said, again, you thought, sounds like long and hard about whether to run again, but you decided to do just that, and you'd like another 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's community service. I think is really important. And when I was in high school, just having conversations. Some I remember distinctly are with my Uncle Pete. He was the mayor at the time of St. Albans City, and him talking about how important it is to try to serve your community in whatever way that is. It could be serving on something like the select board or the city council or doing something else. But he said, be an active member of your community. And I've tried to do that, being a justice of the peace, recreation commission, coach for as long as I can remember. And this is another way that I find of great interest, and I think I can bring bring some perspectives as well, hopefully especially folks with families.
Very good. We'll end it there. Thanks to Bryan DesLauriers, running for re-election for a 3-year term. Jack Brigham, running for re-election to a 2-year term. And challenger David McWilliams, running for both the 2- and 3-year terms. Good luck. Thanks for the time, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We appreciate you watching us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.
I'm heading for the casino.